your hair. Okay.
I could have my Gucci on, I could wear my Louis Vuitton, but even with nothing on, bet I made you look. I made you look.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the chat with Tanya. It's probably like the 7th or 8th time I'm recording this. I am so exhausted. I've had an emotionally exhausting past 2 weeks. I'm so sorry for not releasing this season earlier. I made a video I released a video sometime in February and an official announcement about the Chat with Tanya season 4. The Chat with Tanya season 4 was originally supposed to start in September, October of 2023, but I had law school exams, and so I had to move the release of the episode to 2024. I had already recorded episodes. I entered 2024 January. A lot happened. I just got out of a really crazy situation, left a long-time friendship. A lot happened. Some other things happened, and I was talking to God, and it hit me that this year I should be more vulnerable with my listeners and with everyone. For the first 3 seasons, I've had people on here, and I focused more on people's stories and less on my own. In season 1, I sort of discussed, because it was an intro to the pod, I touched a little bit on me, but this particular season, I call it my most vulnerable season because I'm always vulnerable with you guys, but this time I think I'm going to be transparent. Yeah, because vulnerability and transparency are different. We learned this from Jackie Hill, Preston's wife, Jackie Hill Prairie. The thing with vulnerability is you're showing sides of yourself that are a bit scary, and you're ashamed of, but it's just in that moment. But transparency is being open and truthful and honest with people. I've been open and truthful, but I'm letting you guys in on a lot more than usual, right? I've been very exhausted. The plan for this podcast has changed like 4 times. I have recorded this introduction 4 different times. The first time I recorded it was back in 2023. Episodes couldn't come out. I recorded it again in January as I was going through what I was going through. And then I said, no, this isn't good enough. So I recorded it a few weeks to my call to bar. I wanted to talk about how I was feeling at the time. And then things happened. I recorded it again after my call to bar. I have re-recorded all 13 episodes so many times. There are so many season 4 episode 1, season 4 episode 2s, all the way till 13, because I've had to shoot so many times. Some audio files were really terrible. Others were good, but not giving vulnerability. I wasn't vulnerable enough. So I've re-recorded this podcast so many times. But the interesting thing about this particular episode is that no matter what, it is still new beginnings. I'm glad that I'm recording this now in April. We're mid-April. So many things have happened to me. I went through a really crazy season, the whole of 2023. I met someone I called mentor through an ex-friend of mine. I met this person in 2022. And it was just a crazy experience. I'm not ready to go into that. I finally realized this person had been lying to me since 2022. And I made this realization, but I didn't have strength to walk away. And somehow, during the fast in January, so many things were coming to light and so many questions I had for God. Because I asked God so many questions because I was getting to a very terrible point. I had already been struggling with trusting God, but now I was finally coming to that place where I had accepted that God loved me. I had accepted that Christ died for me. I had accepted that God sees me, and not just that He saw me, but He sees me. And then there were just some things that were not clear. So many lies were told. So I walked away from that experience. But it wasn't just that experience that I walked away from. I walked away from a long-time friendship that was incredibly toxic. Toxic for me and toxic for the other party. I walked away different. Like, this year has been a life-transforming, life-altering year for me. Like, the Shalom that I am, the Tanya that I am today is not the same person that I have been. Finally, I'm finding courage in Christ to walk away from a lot. And that brings me to the topic, new beginnings. When I used to hear people talk about new beginnings, I always thought, I always imagined, I shut this door and I walked in like a queen into this new era. But you don't always walk into a new era like a fabulous queen. Sometimes you walk into a new era broken, tired. But one thing is certain, you walk into a new era fed up with the old and determined to have a new season, a new life, and to start a new chapter. And so I walked in determined to be the best version of myself in Christ Jesus, and to show forth His light and to be authentic to who I am, to admit my faults and to walk away from toxic situations. That has been a very interesting thing. I've walked away from friendships, I've lost relationships, I've confronted demons. I'm currently confronting a very terrible situation. I was meant to record this podcast earlier today, hours ago. And then I said, okay, maybe I'll record it with a friend. And so I invited a friend, to come record the podcast. But I was so exhausted emotionally. And I'll talk about why I was exhausted in the next episode, right? I was exhausted and I just couldn't. And even though I'm presently in a state where it feels like I'm going back to the old, that determination to move forward is still there. That determination to not go back. I can't go back. I know where I'm coming from. I know how dark that place is. I know how painful that place is. I know how scary that place is. I know how sad that place is. I'm not going back there. I'm a 25-year-old lawyer. It's been 1 month and some weeks since I was called to the bar. It's no coincidence that I was called to the bar while turning 25. I had a big plan for 25, and I'm going to talk about that in a future episode. And even though it feels like I'm behind schedule, and I'm still grateful to God for the opportunity to move forward. And I know that 2024, God has so many gifts. And yes, there would be times where I would experience some setbacks, and I might experience some sad times, but I'm comforted by that assurance that Christ gave in His word when He said, "Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but God brings them out of all." I am assured and comforted by those words. I am assured. There's just this assurance deep inside of me, even with all the pain, even with all the struggles, even with what is going on, that I'm going to end this year victorious. It's an end of an era and the beginning of a new era. It's an end of years of pain and agony and sadness. It's the beginning of a new era. It's the beginning of a new life. And I'm so happy and grateful to God. I don't care what people say about me. Literally, as I'm saying these things, I have thoughts in my mind of the different things that I've been told, being called a liability, told that I'll be a liability to my husband, and just the different things that have been said, and how hurt I am. But I'm looking forward to a better future, because I know that there's going to be a better future. I want to officially welcome you guys to season 4. If you're new here, I'm Shalom Tanya. This is my podcast. It's a safe space where we talk about everything and anything. We don't gossip here. We talk so we can grow. We talk so we can learn from each other. This is also the healing podcast. That's what it is. It's the healing podcast. It's the podcast of growth. It's a podcast where we talk about the things we're too afraid to talk about, because we need to grow. We need to become the best versions of us in Christ Jesus. We need to step into what God has called us to be. We need to become the presence itself. We need to move from being reflections of His glory to being the glory itself. Move from being carriers of the glory to being the glory itself. That when people see you, they see the glory of God. That's where we're getting to, where we're becoming the image of the Christ. And the image of the Christ is one that is powerful, one that is strong, one that is confident, one that is kind, one that is assured, one that succeeds wherever she or he finds him or herself. That's that image. One that fulfills purpose and does amazing things. Welcome to season 4 of The Chat with Tanya.